you have any questions, as I go through everything, something might pop up and you want to ask me. I'm usually a little bit rubbish at looking at questions when I'm focused, and the chat box when I'm focused in talking. So, but if you want to pop them when they appear to your brain before you forget, if you want to pop them in the chat, then we will have a Q&A session. And we will look at all the questions that have accumulated through the chat. So if you want to capture questions when they rise, put them in the chat, and then we'll go through everything at the end if you want. The first one is like the obvious, but it's not that obvious. People sometimes still seem to be using their websites as if they were a business card, which means you're just showing it around to people like a passive tool. But the difference in cost between a website and a business card is significant, because the difference in potential is great. A website should be an active source for you of new possible patient inquiries, because it should be found online by prospective patients that would have never known about you, that you wouldn't be able to meet in your normal circumstances. During the night, you should be ideally finding inquiries in your inbox, contact forms, requests for a consultation by people who are finding you online. That is the ideal outcome out of this. Now, this should be able to move. Yes. So this is a funny slide, because my industry, my job, SEO, has been declared about to die since I basically started. And this is taken from Brighton SEO. Every year they have these kind of ridiculous fake tombstones at the entrance of Brighton SEO, which is the biggest SEO conference in the world, and it happens just around the corner here. And because every year, for one reason or another, people have been saying SEO is dying, is dead, they won't be used anymore. In quite a bit of years that I've been doing this, it hasn't died yet. And now with AI coming up, people are saying people won't be needing SEO anymore. It's not like that. It's just changing. It's adapting with the times. But the core fundamentals, the ones that we're talking about today, they're staying. So these are really the basics. They're not going anywhere. So through the years, I've seen quite a bit of changes. This is my company. It's an SEO agency. So we only do this. We don't do anything else. Web development, PPC, social media, email marketing. We chose to only specialize on one thing, to be as laser focused as can be, as knowledgeable as can be in one discipline only, based here in West London. So I'm going to describe, first of all, what is Google, and if we are talking now a little bit wider about the other search engines, now people are kind of rediscovering Bing, if you want, because ChatGPT as OpenAI belongs 49% to Microsoft, and Microsoft's own search engines Bing. So that kind of neglected little search engine, now people are rediscovering it. Plus the various AI search tools, they all more or less have the same kind of core mission, which is giving the best possible experience to the users. In this case, they are matchmakers. They're trying to make the best possible match between somebody searching for something somewhere in the world and one page. And just think how difficult it is if you think that every second, 3 new websites have been appearing in the world. So the web is literally inundated by websites. We have, last time they were counted, more than 1 billion websites, which is a crazy high number. And AI has only made it worse because the number keeps growing. It's so easy to just churn out content with AI. And we were talking a little moment as to the pros and cons. But it's just so easy that the web is being inundated even more. So it's kind of a tsunami wave of things that are appearing. So think how difficult it is to make this kind of match now with all of these abundance of possible choices. So how does it work? Now, a search engine, Google is the most famous being, and all of them, they mainly consist of three elements. So if you know what you're dealing with, the index, you can imagine it like the biggest library that you've ever imagined, huge, massive library of every single page of every single website. They're all stored in there. So just how huge it can be. The crawlers or crawler bots, they're these tiny little spiders. They sometimes represent them as their programs. They're basically programmed to scan the web all the time, regularly, and add more pages if they find them into the index. So crawl, scan, index. Or something is new, okay, replace the copy that is in the index all the time, all the time. The final element is the algorithm, which is the one that does the match. So somebody searches for something out of all the pages that have been, no, I didn't raise my hand. How do I put my hand down? Yeah. Sorry, this function is cool. I need to be more mindful of my hand gestures. And yeah, being Italian, I use my hands a lot, so I apologize. What happens is they need to make this kind of perfect match between what was scanned and indexed and what is being searched. And how does it happen? What determines the best kind of match are mainly three factors. I kind of go in threes, it's easy to remember. Coding, content, and backlinks. And we will go little by little into each of them, but in a very, very basic term, at least the things that you can DIY. So the things that you can do yourself, that you can become aware of. Because I'm a great, great believer in knowledge, as in being something that empowers you to do your choices. And it can be the choice of not doing anything if you can't be bothered, if you've got better things to do, if you don't really need it, that's a choice, but at least it's a choice that you do. Or it can be a choice of, I don't know, outsourcing the thing to somebody else, but you know what they're going to be doing because you have the knowledge of how these things work. Or the choice of doing it yourself little by little. So you decide, I don't know, I'm doing 5 minutes a day of something that comes out of this today. So all very simple things that you could, if you want, be doing on your own. So let's start with the content. The first thing that I would do if starting from this level is kind of looking at the assets that you have. Okay, what are my strengths? We can do this kind of SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So what is your website? What does your website consist of? So let's just start an Excel file if you want and list down every page, every URL that you have, and it can be the pages, the articles of the blog, it can be the products in case you're selling something that is somehow productized, or just put down all of the URLs of the site, the ones that you can see at least, because there might be some that are hidden and you can see, but let's just stick with the DIY side. So what you can see if you navigate the site, everything, go through everything and list them down. And now look at this list, look at the content that you have as if it wasn't yours. Because I know we're all emotionally kind of attached. It's our own things and so on. Pretend it's not yours, detach yourself a little bit and think, okay, Now, how old are these pieces? When were they last revised? Because with medical, and we work in medical quite a lot, we need to be aware that you are falling in an industry, in a big bucket of topics that Google is really strict with. They call it your money or your life, and it's medical, legal, and financial. All of the things that if they're not correct and up to date online can cause some consequences, some serious consequence into the users. So Google will treat your content, your websites with an eye, with a special kind of eye of consideration. And for the good and for the bad, which means that if you do well, it's really possible to get a medical website to rank, which is one of the reasons why we specialized in this niche. But at the same time, you need to kind of play by the rules a little bit. So at least once a year, revise the content. Make sure that there is nothing that is outdated, nothing that should be formulated differently because of the way things are treated, if any guidance has changed, compliance and so on, but also because of the way you are doing things, because we change with times, and we might have been accumulating things that we have been written when we were in a different place for one reason or another. So it might not represent exactly how you want to be perceived now. So little check about that. Then a quantitative check of the various pieces that you have online. If they're really small, if they're really thin, it's worth noting them down as a little bit of work, rework is recommended, because content nowadays needs to have some specifics to be able to rank. And it's not just the word count, it's also the depth of the content and how really insightful, how really valuable it is. So if you see that it's very, very short and just a little bit shallow, that needs a little bit of rework. Are there internal links that guide your website visitors through the journey onto the website? Because the typical kind of journey into a website is you enter through the home page and then you move throughout following the links. With SEO, what happens is that you might have one lateral page or even an article that gets ranked really well. So people might land onto your website as a landing page into one of these lateral pages. And then you need to guide them through, as if they're visiting your home, you need to guide them through the rest of the site and tell them, okay, now that you visited this, you might want to check this thing, or this is also related. This is also all interlinking together. Also consider when you're thinking of those crawlers, the little spiders, if it's a spider web, they only move through links. So if two pages are connected by a link, the crawler bot will access them. If the link is broken or if there is no link, some pages they are completely unlinked, they're called orphan pages, then the crawler won't be able to reach it. So the more you interlink pages together, the more chances they get to be indexed and crawled and crawled, because it happens multiple times. So it's important to make sure you decide the journey. You decide which rooms of the house you want them to see first, what is the best kind of lighting and atmosphere. So you kind of own the journey that they do, and it can change again. So call to action, CTA that you see is something that you should have in every page, because you've been giving them something. You've been writing something, spending some time, giving them knowledge and advice. At this point, you want to ask for something back. You might want to ask, now book a consultation, get in touch with me, send me a message, or I don't know, download this resource if it's something that you want them to do. So ask them what is the natural prosecution of the journey together. Ask them to do something. Just literally be quite clear. And then this is interesting because we all think of websites as you see in this left-hand side. This is our site. So colorful, full of design, full of color. That's how humans see. This is how Google sees the site. So all of these boring strings of code. But how do they navigate it? It's basically the crawlers, they have a checklist. It's basically a program, and they're programmed to go through the checklist. So they will start in the checklist checking, okay, let me see what's in the title. Let me see what's in the H1. You sometimes can hear our SEOs talk about H1, heading 1, main heading. That's quite important because it's like when you go into a bookshop and you want to buy a new book, first thing that you do, you read the title on the cover of the book and you say, okay, I get a sense of what it's about. If there is no title on the cover, it already puzzles you a little bit. And believe me, you have no idea how many times we see websites that seem to have a title and it's somehow being coded as if it doesn't have an H1 because it's being coded as an H2 or H3. So we need to make sure that we have headings, even if it sounds incredibly obvious, and they are meaningful. Because again, you have no idea how many times we check websites and people have been really creative and they used really nice headings that don't really say what it's about. Like, I don't know, the dawn of a new era, and it's selling amateurs. So if you want the crawler bot to understand what the page is about and store it in the index, nice and clear with what it is actually about, then we need to say clearly, the main heading needs to contain the keyword that you want to be found for, and we will talk about keywords in a moment. So think about for every page what you want to be found for, and make it appear clearly in your main heading, in the URL, the part of the URL that you can decide. In the images, because you can also optimize with images, there is something that is called alternative text that is usually meant for visually impaired users who are using an image reader. But if you include keywords in there, it's helpful. It describes the image and it also describes what the page is about. In the meta description, which is this tiny little blurb that appears on Google when you find the result title URL, this is the part that you can change. This is the tiny little blurb that we call a meta description. If you don't generate it, Google will generate it for you, but it might sound a little bit clunky or with an ellipsis, not really precise and polished as you would want. And in the copy, obviously. So what we say at this stage is don't play hide and seek with Google because you know that you want to be found. But if you're hiding that crucial information from your page, you don't even know where you're hiding yourself from Google. So if you want to be found, don't hide yourself. Just have things clear inside. Decide what it is that you want to be found for every single page, and use the same thing recurring in a very coherent way in all of these checkpoints. So it's like if you're giving instructions to a very small child, you want the message to be clear, easy, repetitive, so that in the end it gets understood. Same thing happens with Google. Sometimes confusing signals. You have one title that is about something and a piece of the URL that is about something else, and the content, and they're kind of giving lots of different signals, and it's confusing. One-to-one repeated throughout the various elements of each page. So just a second. Cool. Now, user intent. This is nice because this is you thinking about your users. What do you think they might be searching for at this stage? It's a little bit of a role-playing exercise. You pretend that you are your patient. what may I be searching for in this stage? What could be my pain point? What could be the thing that I'm Googling? And we are talking qualitative matters now, because if we want numbers, then there are quite a few SEO tools that can give you numbers, as in volume of search, how many people actually search for specific things, how difficult it is to rank, but this is complicating matters a little bit. Now I'm trying to keep it really, really basic level at this stage. So you're just trying to think, trying to associate. We call it a keyword content map, which is a very strange name. It's basically this Excel file that you've been creating, and you're associating every page to the reason why, the quality user intent, the intention of the user, what is their intention, what do they want to get, and it can be, I don't know, treatment for this symptom, it can be something that is moving them and it's in their interest at this stage, and you kind of correlate them one-to-one. When you do this kind of exercise, usually two things happen. One, you find lots of pages without a keyword, and you then add it like this. The second one is that you might start finding a lot of keywords without a page. Because when you start thinking about what your prospective patients might be searching for, then the list keeps kind of growing, and you will realize probably that there are a lot of things that you would want to be found for, and there is no existing content asset that covers that, because you know there must be a sort of match. So they're searching for something, there is a page that matches as well as possible their intent, okay, that can be shown as a good kind of log match. When it doesn't happen, you've just highlighted a content gap. You've just discovered your next little task to do. You've just discovered that you should produce this little piece of content, and you become aware of something that can really, really help your users. It's all about helping them out and giving them the best kind of possible experience on your website, the best kind of support. And if you're curious to try and validate your assumptions, kind of second level of activity in this. So you've got your assumptions, you've got all of this list of things that you think they would be searching for. If you want to see if it's just in your head or if people really search for these, as I was saying, there are some tools that can be used. SEO tools usually tend to be quite expensive because they are very in-depth. They do lots of things that you might not really need. So there are some free trials, but you might like being buying a very, very big thing to use it for a little thing. So these are free ones that you can use. Google Trends, if you suggest, they do offer a few different number of searches every day. So if you kind of split the job in different days, you get it all done with the free versions. And so the public, people also ask is on Google itself. If you start typing something, the auto compilation of the search query is based on what people actually search. So it's suggesting what you might be searching for, because lots of people previously used that. So it's already a good indicator of something that can be really trendy. So that gives you an idea of what people are searching for. And you will see that there is a difference in this kind of keywords. So not all keywords are born equal, and we tend to talk more about key phrases than keywords because of this long tail. The long tail of a keyword is how many pieces of words make the keyword. And if you see these numbers, I just made an example with business coaching, for example, the more elements you add to the tail of the keyword, the more this narrows down, because it goes very niche. Sometimes it's another example which has to do with shoes. If you're trying to rank for the word shoes, you wouldn't be able, because it's as vague as it gets. It can mean a lot of different things. It can mean shoes, the history of shoes, shoes in the world, and so on. So if you start adding more elements to the tail of this keyword, say now you're adding one and you're having white shoes. With this, you have cut some of the possible variations. So shoes in the world, the history of the shoes, they're not really relevant anymore. You're narrowing it down, but it's still a little bit vague, because it can mean any type of white shoes, wedding shoes, tennis shoes. So let's add another element to the tail, and you're having white tennis shoes. Oh, you shrunk it already quite a lot. So now you're only talking to the people who are really interested into that. If you add even more elements, like you add, I don't know, white tennis shoes, size X, brand Y. Well, at this number, at this moment, you're talking with as niche and interested an audience as can be, so that they basically have their credit card next to the mouse, ready to purchase. So sometimes volume of search, if you're looking at the numbers, is used a little bit like a vanity figure. People tend to think, oh, it's got thousands and thousands of searches, it must be good. If it's got thousands and thousands of searches, usually it must be vague, too vague. So, and it's too difficult for you to rank, because SEO is the most competitive kind of game that you can play with marketing, because there's only 10 results possibly appearing on the first page of Google. Now even less, because AI overview, that little box is taking some space right at the top. So blue links are pushed lower and lower. And if you want to get there, you have to kind of push somebody down. It's a zero-sum kind of game. So if you want to rank better than somebody else, you need to outrank somebody and be better than them. So it's like if you're running a race, you're trying to run, I don't know, the London Marathon is quite busy, and you have to outrun so many seriously good runners. If you're trying to win your local park run, is so much easier, because it's smaller and probably the level isn't that high. So it's deciding actually what is your playing field, and not just pulling the bar too high without any real need. So go niche and don't worry about very, very high volumes. Sometimes in the small volumes, there is the gold, there is the real interest and the real patients that you want to actually attract. Now, we were talking about content. So what if you have found these content gaps and you want to start writing new content or rewriting, reworking something that you found isn't really there yet? How do we do it so that it works as well as possible? Now, this nice little diagram here is an example of the content pillars and the content clusters, as we call them. There should be usually a core topic and a lot of little clusters around. So subtopics all kind of correlated to that. And if you see these green lines, these are all links. So this is why this is the best kind of content format that works, because every page is super well linked. Every article is linked to each other, and they're all linked to and from the main core topic, which is usually the hardest one to rank. So this is the one that is a little bit more vague, and then the others go into different various kind of specifics all around something. So a little bit vague and a little bit more precise around a topic. So this don't need that much help ranking. This one needs as much help, so everybody's kind of linking to it. Content should be informative and unique. And when we talk unique, it's not AI ChatGPT generated content because we are seeing so much beige vanilla content being churned out every minute by AI tools that it is really inundating the web. And Google has taken a stance against AI-only content, and it won't be ranking that well, unfortunately. I mean, it's for the benefit of the user, because in the end, that content doesn't really provide any added value. It's something that is already just reheated, that was already existing somewhere, and it doesn't really make a difference to bring it forward to your website. So what does work is this kind of EEAT factor, which is expertise, experience, authority, and trustworthiness. It's all the things that can only be found in your head and not on any other place. Because, for example, it's your clinical expertise and how much you know that a certain specific kind of situation can be treated and will respond if specific things are put in place. I'm not saying give away all of our trade secrets, but it's taking out knowledge out of our heads that doesn't exist anywhere else. It's like presenting cases all anonymized and maybe completely fictional characters, but explaining stories and explaining real things that have happened and wouldn't appear anywhere else. You're taking all of that knowledge out of your head, all that experience and expertise that you have, and you're putting it onto the page. That gives value that could not be found anywhere else and would really make it useful addition to the web. It's like in that Harry Potter movie, there was a sort of magic wand that was extracting thoughts out of people's head. If you manage to extract real knowledge and put it onto your website, that is how you really get content wins. And this is one classic. It's a book that's been existing for a long, long time. It's not new at all, but it gives you an idea of how content can make a difference online and how it could ideally be structured. Now, we've gone through content. If we want to talk about code, I'm keeping it as basic and simple as possible, just to tell you that first of all, not all the platforms that you can use to build a website are the same. And usually we pay a price for every little convenience that we have. So if we find something that is incredibly easy to build, say, I don't know, Wix, sometimes Squarespace, these kind of things, and we can build the DIY website in an evening without any technical knowledge, it's really helpful. Really, really easy, and you can get something launched off the bat straight away. So I'm absolutely not against it, but just be aware that your possibility of impacting the technical SEO elements of this are a little bit limited, which does not mean that your site will not be able to rank if it's on a Wix or a Squarespace or something like that. But you only need to kind of outbalance. So your triangle will not have the three sides completely identical. You will be aware that the coding side is a little bit shorter, and you kind of have to rebalance with the other two sides and make them stronger. Because some of the things cannot be completely optimized. As for things that you, without any technical coding knowledge, absolutely no passion for these kind of things, can test onto your website, I really recommend you testing your page speed. There are plenty of page speed tests. This is Google's own. So we want to please Google, that's it. How Google considers your website page speed. And this appears like a traffic light, red, amber, or green. It's always a little bit better for desktop, a little bit worse for mobile. But it is crucial because slow loading of pages is not good at all for your search engine and or for your users who don't really like pages that load slowly. So if you see that you're in the red, if you're in the amber, it's kind of most of the web. If you're in the red, it might be worth having a conversation with your web developers. If page speed is slow, it's usually done by two factors: how the site is built and the hosting. Because if you're hosting your website on a very cheap hosting, usually on that cheap hosting, they have thousands and thousands of websites, and this machine inevitably is a little bit slow in loading. So it's a couple of factors that impact in this case, and it's worth checking with your web developer. Absolutely make sure the site has got HTTPS, it's mobile friendly. This rich results test, which seems new, it's not new at all. Schema structured data was invented quite a lot of years ago. It's now becoming all so popular again because of AI tools. They have declared that they use structured data and schema. And for medical condition therapy, specialty, there are so many specific, unique structured data. That is something that you might need someone a little bit technical to create for you. It's a little injection of codes that you don't see. It goes behind the scenes, it goes into the website, and it tells the search engines what the site, what the page is about. So at least you can test. If you see that you do not have any, that's one of the things that possibly you may become aware that you want to do. Now, skipping to the last side of the triangle, backlinks. What are they? They are third-party mentions, links pointing into your site. And it basically happens like a recommendation, like a token of trust coming into your website. It's like, for example, you want to find a new account and you start asking around for recommendations, and some names start being repeated multiple times, then you get curious and you want to actually have a conversation with this person. And if someone you care about mentions this person, then you really want to have a conversation. The same thing happens with Google. With these billion of websites online, it needs to decide who are the best. It will look at these kind of recommendations, links pointing to your site. As for everything, there is an easy way of doing things and there is a good way of doing things. The easy way is probably the one that most of us, including me, I have an SEO agency. We receive emails very often saying, I will rank your site on the first page of Google tomorrow. This usually means that they're trying to sell you backlinks. And that is something that I absolutely would like to warn you against, because it's against Google guidelines. Buying backlinks, paying for backlinks is a violation of Google guidelines. It can get you into trouble as in penalizations that you have to appeal against, and it's a very slow and painful process. So how do we get good links? Say, for example, you can, you should be mentioned in all those associations or bodies that you belong to. So you should be listed in there with a link to your site, kind of directory likes, and then digital PR. So being featured as a thought leader, as a thought expert into your specific sphere of competency and knowledge, being a guest in podcasts, in online magazines, putting yourself forward for these kind of things. There are some tools. One is HARO, help a reporter out. There's lots of these free places in which when some journalist has a question about something and they want an expert, you can kind of pitch your knowledge and say, I can help you write this piece. So if you keep an eye out there, you're not just generating a link to your site, you're also generating possibly interest, brand awareness, incoming traffic, and so on, kind of thing. Absolutely, this is an easy win. It's completely free. It's Google Business Profile. Everybody can create it. It takes like 15 minutes. If there is already something existing with your business name, you have to claim it. Otherwise, you can create it, verify it, and make sure it's as well filled as possible with images and little videos. You can add posts, services, things that you do. That's like the easiest way to be found and for free. And that's where you can get your patients to leave a review. And it's really, really powerful because whenever they describe you, they would use words that you wouldn't necessarily use because A, we're not very good at saying good things about ourselves usually, but also because other people experience us in a different way. So they might highlight specific things that for them were valuable and can be valuable for other prospective patients. So absolutely, this is really, really helpful. You shouldn't wait for them to do it. You should proactively ask for it. So whenever you feel that there is that level of gratitude apex in which, yes, they're really saying, well, thank you so much. You've been helping me so much. That's kind of a good point in which we say, well, if you think that I could be a good help for somebody else in a similar condition, if you want to leave a note up there, maybe somebody else can find the same sort of relief. And when you do receive a review, make sure that you reply, because your replies are read. People check how the business owners reply to every review, and it shows a little bit of your personality and so on. This will stay with you if you want. There is a little bit of possible ways that you can get to know more. We're running a webinar next week, which is about prediction for how SEO is going to change in the new year. I can send the slides, so all these links are clickable and it's free. All of this stuff is free. We send a newsletter every month, short and sweet, some reminders of things that you can do. If you have questions that you don't want to say here or they pop to your mind later, you can send me an email. I promise I will answer all of them. And then there is the QR code for the audit if you want. It's completely free. I want to give you some extra help looking at the specifics of your site, telling you a little bit of the issues that we can find, things that you could be doing, and so on. So free things that you can get.